Why did so-and-so survive a tragedy while someone else didn't? Why am I not married? Why did so-and-so get to have twins and not me? What makes me so different from them? I mean, I took care of my body, but why did I get sick? Why does it seem like the bad guys get away with everything? Why haven't blessings fallen to me just like they fall into other people? I'm just as worthy. I thought you were no respecter of persons. Why didn't this work out for me? Hello, good people. This is Joanna with the Harmonious.Balance channel. And if there is one thing that can throw me off balance or throw me off kilter, it's when life makes me question my faith. So today, I want to talk with you about one of my faith struggles, trying to understand the reason why behind certain situations that I face. Within the last 7 or 8 years or so, I decided I was actually going to stop asking God the question why. And I really wish that other people would stop making up answers just to have an answer to the question of why. But first, let me tell you this particular story. I think within the last 3 years or so, I know it's been at least 3 years, within the 3 years, because it happened while I was living here in LA and I've only been here for 3 years. I was watching a sermon on YouTube from a very prominent minister, and I'm not actually going to say his name because, it's really not about him. Plus, I still listen to him. I just didn't agree with his take on this particular situation. So let's go to the Bible. We all know the story. Well, maybe you don't know if you're not into the Bible, if you're not Christian, but the story of Abraham and Sarah wanting to have a child. But Sarah was barren. But God miraculously allowed them to conceive in their advanced age. And I mean advanced. Sarah was 90 and Abraham was 100. Now, Christians use this story all the time to talk about God's faithfulness and how to never give up hope. But the plaguing question is, why did it take God so long to fulfill his promise? And this particular minister confidently claimed to know the answer as to why God took so long. So, I leaned forward with anticipation because, after all, this particular minister is one of the few that grabs my attention and says things that really connect with my spirit. And so at this point in time, he had been preaching this sermon for about an hour, maybe even a little bit longer. So I was really, really eager to hear what he had to say. And he was finally sharing this grand revelation. And his answer, his response was, God waited so long so that Abraham would be grateful. I sat back like, what? I mean, at a time when having a child meant everything, especially for a woman, a barren woman at that. I'm positive that Sarah would have been grateful at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You mean 90? She had to wait till 90 just to be grateful. And Abraham was 100. I'm almost positive that he would have been grateful at a much younger age. But let's say for the sake of argument that they wouldn't have been grateful, that they felt entitled. The implication of this sermon was that if you're laying in wait for something, then gratitude is the key to unlocking the promise. And I actually have a really hard time believing that. Now, I know that there are some people that are delusionally entitled, but I would argue that the average person really doesn't have a gratitude problem. But I'm not going to argue that point right now. I'm actually going to stay on topic, which is why I stopped asking God why. And the reason is there really is never a sufficient answer. Why did so-and-so survive a tragedy while someone else didn't? Why am I not married? Why did so-and-so get to have twins and not me? What makes me so different from them? I mean, I took care of my body, but why did I get sick? Why does it seem like the bad guys get away with everything? Why haven't blessings fallen to me just like they fallen to other people? I'm just as worthy. I thought you were no respecter of persons. Why didn't this work out for me? Now, I know my personality, I'm analytical to a fault, but I have no interest in arguing for the sake of arguing. I don't have to be right, nor do I seek to be soothed like I just can't take some hits in this life. So if I'm asking, it's because if there's anything I can do to course correct, then I want to course correct. If there is some perspective that can help me move forward, then I genuinely want to hear it, even if it's hard for me to hear. But I don't want to hear things just to have an answer. And there have been times where I know certain answers really don't answer the question. Most of these answers simply are not sufficient. And so what that says to me is that truthfully, if there is no answer, there is no answer. Or God hasn't given one. Because to me, I actually don't think God gives insufficient answers. So why continually keep asking why, only to end up frustrated? So I decided simply not to ask. Now you might think that that's a cop-out, but to me it's not a cop-out. It actually gives me peace. Not an ignorance is bliss kind of peace, but peace in the sense that there's just no need to force an answer. Some things are not explainable. And you know, some things just simply don't have answers. And that peace helps me move forward to acceptance. So you might ask, well, what if someone asks God why and gets a sufficient answer and gets the same level of peace? Now, I can't tell someone that they don't have peace when they say they have peace. And I'm not saying that there are never any sufficient answers. However, for those truly tough situations, tragedies, loss, grief, the situations that leave us totally broken and perplexed, but whose realities we ultimately have to accept, those gut-wrenching experiences, I think most people would agree that there are no sufficient answers as to why those things happen. And as a whole, that's what makes me stop asking God why. So I'd love to hear from you. Can you relate to what I'm talking about here? Have you decided to stop asking God why? Have you been frustrated with some of the responses that you've received as to why certain things have happened? Or maybe you've had the opposite experience where you feel like you actually do receive sufficient comments. Fire up the comments. Let me hear what you think. I would love to hear some different perspectives. Well, that's all for now. I will see you later, good people.